She was there with him then, in those days. So we had a great night. Great night.
So you know, there were 6 people there.
Yeah, 6 people. Yeah.
And that was in 1980s.
It was in the 1980s. Yeah. It would still happen, you know. And you could still go down. I remember I think this must have been my first trip to LA, and I was there for the Monterey Festival. San Francisco, wasn't it? It was in San Francisco. It was on the way out, and I kind of, as you do, you know, first night in San Francisco, you know, you wander around. I was wandering around the downtown area on my own, but late at night, about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I could hear this guitar playing coming from a club, and I walked in there. To every face looked round, every face in the place was black. You know, they're all looking at me, you know, and I think, oh fuck. You know. I didn't really care anyway. I just loved the music, and I sat down inside, just got a beer and jigging it. It was Wes Montgomery. Wes Montgomery. I mean, I couldn't believe it. He was playing to about 20 people in this little, you know, one of the great jazz guitarists of all time, you know. I actually got a beer ball for me for having the nerve to stay. one of the black guys, I was the barman, he sent over a beer. Oh, fuck it, I mean, I just wanted to listen to the music, you know. I didn't realise it was dangerous. It probably was. Yeah.
And that was in
66, right? 67.
So, like you said, they're probably surprised to see you then.
Yeah. They'd have been even more surprised if I'd have walked in with Jimi Hendrix, because that's who I came with. I flew out with Jimi Hendrix and came back with a home.
Right.
We flew from London to New York, picked up the Animals, Eric Burden and the Animals from there. Because Chaz was involved still with them. Eric Burden and the New Animals it was.
It's a perfect example of what the British did for an American black artist. He came over here and did really well over here.
Yeah, you could say that in a way. Yeah. I mean, also Jimmy and people like that the Americans were smart enough to know at that time that England was hot and it was a good launching pad. You know, it was a good place to springboard your publicity and your promotion, and then go back into America. PJ Proby had already done it. The Walker Brothers had already done it. You know, they were 2 white acts, mind you. Jimmy was something different. And then Chaz had told me about Jimmy and said, you know, I've got this great black act, and I'm leaving the Animals, I'm going to manage him, you know. When he makes it, I'll take you to America with me. My first trip to America. I said, great. And then Hey Joe came out, and I did a bit of writing on the NME for him. And he said, let's go, you know. And took the plane from London to New York, picked up Eric Burden and the New Animals, who were also going to appear on the Monterey Festival. Flew to San Francisco to LA, and from LA to Monterey. And on the plane from LA to Monterey, we had some lunatic called Tiny Tim. About 7 foot tall. He sang in a very. Have you ever heard of Tiny Tim? Oh God, if you saw him, you wouldn't believe it. Long, streaky, greasy black hair. About 7 foot tall, and sang in a high falsetto to a ukulele. Tiptoe, through the tulips, and he got his ukulele out, so he let us have it on the plane. Jimi Hendrix thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen in his life, which it was, as a white guy, you know. He actually had a hit with it. That was the most amazing thing. I mean, it was before he ever had a hit with it. And he was on the plane with us, as was Bob Hite, I think, Canned Heat, I think they were on there. And then I saw Janis Joplin at the festival. She was fantastic. First time I'd ever seen her. I went up to her afterwards and said, "You're the best female vocalist I have ever seen in my life." And she said, "You get out much, honey?" That was really nice. Get out much, honey? She was great. That was a great way to have your first trip to America, because the Monterey Festival had Otis Redding on it, which I mean, he was dead about 6 months later. Mamas and Papas, The Who, Hendrix, Paul Butterfield, Buffalo Springfield later kind of morphed into Crosby, Stills Nash thingy.
It's one of my favourite bands.
That's a fabulous 3 days. And Sgt. Pepper's had just been released and been played over the town or all over the gardens. There weren't that many black artists when I think about it. There should have been more. Ravi Shankar was there. Never could understand Ravi Shankar. Sat in the pouring rain, stoned out of my head, listening to Ravi Shankar going, what is it? Why does George Harrison like this? It's not working. Give me some more. I gave it up after that. I thought, I'm just not going to understand it. Yeah. 2 hours I stood there. Give me the blues. Go listen to some blues. Do you know the only white guy that I've ever heard that was really born with a black voice? Joe Cocker.
Joe Cocker, yeah.
There's plenty of them that can sing. I mean, as they say, you don't have to be black to sing the blues, but it helps.
Yeah.
You know. But Joe Cocker, just without trying, has a black voice. You know. I mean, he's kind of drifted into the kind of middle of the road stuff in the last few years. He's trying to make a few bob from all the stuff he was ripped off from the 60s. I won't blame it altogether. But wonderful blues voice he's got. I mean, it's like a Ray Charles, you know, white guy. And the guy who always used to agree with me about that was Stu, who was the guy who founded the Stones with Brian Jones, piano player. No longer with us. He always said the same thing about Joe Cocker. And there was some good, had some good white singers. Paul Jones, I could never believe him when he sang blues. Very knowledgeable about the blues. Very knowledgeable. But doesn't really cut it as a blues singer. Can't believe a word he says, you know. Ham is the word that comes to mind very quickly. Rod Stewart, great voice. What?
Yeah.
Stupid bastard. You know, there's a bloke that's thrown it all away.
Yeah. What
mattered anyway. But what mattered with Rod was making as much money as he possibly could.
Yeah.
So suddenly he's morphed into Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
You know, God, Jesus. But wonderful. Did a couple of albums in the 60s, one called Gasoline Alley, and another one called An Old Raincoat Never Lets You Down. Get those, don't bother getting any other Rod Stewart album thereafter. Just great. Terrific blues voice. Wasted. And Clapton's learned to sing. You know.
It's gone off a bit lately, then.
Yeah, well, you know.
Tame.
Well, yeah, come on, he must be nearly 70. You know, all that generation.
He can still do it.
And our time, you know, what's next? You know, wait for you guys to come up with something.
Yeah, fair point. All we've got is teeny tempo at the moment. That's the height of excitement in music, you know. The Brits.
The last thing I kind of thought had got something going for it, and it wasn't. I'm not pretending for 1 minute I liked all of it, so I didn't. The last thing that had something going for it was rap. You know, and the origins of rap, because that's what it's got to come from the streets to begin with. It's going to mean anything. It's where rock and roll came from. It's where punk came from. It's where reggae came from.
Yeah.
It's where it's got to come from the streets. If it comes from anywhere else, it's usually been prefabricated or engineered by people looking to make as much money as possible. You know? If you're looking for the voice for a disaffected youth or disaffected generation, it comes from the street. And it's usually a cry of anger, desperation and help.
And in the end they all have to sell out.
Well, it goes that's what money does with money, you know, but it doesn't devalue what they did originally. It doesn't devalue the original stuff, you know. And you can still hear it on record. And even though you can't hear what the Stones, I can't anyway, what the Stones have, in the last 10 years for me meant nothing. But if you go back to that original 60s stuff and listen to it, then it meant something, because the energy level and the genuine commitment of what they were trying to do comes through. They believed what they were doing. You know? Now it's kind of like, hey, how can I keep doing this? You know? Good. I don't blame them. Jesus. You know? But it's kind of devalued. But then, you know, there's plenty of other music around. Good music around. The Duckworth-Lewis method made me laugh. I was listening to them the other week. Have you heard them?
The Duckworth-Lewis method?
Yeah.
I have to check that out.
Look, you know what the Duckworth-Lewis method
What's
is?
that?
It's a cricket thing.
Oh, right.
How they actually figure out what the score is and the run rate, percentage ball. They've just called themselves that for a laugh.
Great.
And they're writing kind of like cricket lyrics. They're really funny.
Sort of a cricket band answer to Genesis.
Yeah, maybe. I don't really think the Duckworth-Lewis method is the answer. I don't think I've actually seen a good new young band for so long. Arctic.
Flunkies.
Yeah. Kings of Leon. They're not young. Elbow. They're not young. I don't know. Going to take some waking up. But you've got to find something that people are going to get uptight about, you know, first of all. Somebody's got to do something different. You need something to grab the attention. That's what works. You get something that grabs the attention, either fashion-wise or image-wise, or some action that takes place on stage. And then you can get the music through after it, and then you've got something going. You know? Said the man who told Jimi Hendrix to set fire to his guitar. One of my claims to fame. I came up with that one backstage.
Or Monterey?
No, it was before Monterey. It was at Finsbury Park Astoria again. And they were on a package show with, Hendrix was on a package show with the Walker Brothers and Cat Stevens and Engelbert Humperdinck, would you believe, was on the same bill. And Chaz, who was the manager at the time, said, if you're a journalist, you know, what can we do to grab all the headlines this week, you know, in the press, you know? Because they were about third on the bill, Jimi Hendrix Experience. I said, it's a shame you can't set fire to the guitar. And there was a silence in the dressing room, right? And when Chaz turned to the road, he said, Newcastle accent, Jimmy, go out and be some lighter fuel. And that's what they did, of course. They poured lighter fuel over the base of the guitar. Set fire, it burnt off the base of the guitar. Well, I knew it wasn't going to. I knew you couldn't set fire to a solid state guitar. It just wasn't going to burn, you know, not unless you had a flamethrower or something, you know. So I kind of just, but it worked.
Well plugged in.
Oh shit! The pictures have become iconic, haven't they, over the years? Jimmy was not eternally grateful, I have to say. Not eternally grateful. When he went on at Monterey, I remember him saying, "I got a good idea tonight. Why don't you set fire to your typewriter?" It's not going to have the same impact, Jimmy. He only did it about 4 times in his life. Everybody thinks he did it on every performance, but he didn't. But when he did it, boy, did it create that.
Yeah.
The guy who was in charge of the security at Finsbury Park Astoria went potty. Absolutely potty, because he was waving it around his head on stage. He came on with a fire extinguisher. Somehow or other the compere got in the way. He got fire extinguished. Got all his chemicals in his eyes. And they put out the guitar, and Jimmy by that time had left the stage, left the guitar just burning on the stage. You'll never work in this theatre again. And he had an agent called Tito Burns, which was a bit ironic. And Tito smuggled the guitar out under his raincoat. You could just see him going out the door, and just the sort of neck of the guitar under his raincoat, so that he could get rid of the evidence. So he didn't want anybody finding the charred guitar. Great stuff.